Greetings, everyone, and welcome to SpaceWeek Live for Sunday, November 1st, 2020. It's been a couple of weeks. I took a break from SpaceWeek last week because my daughter had a birthday, and I was busy doing birthday stuff for her. It went well, and she enjoyed her Robux. Yeah, so let's get caught up. Looking back at the last couple of weeks, let's start with the biggie. NASA's Origins Spectral Interpretation Resource Identification Security Regolith Explorer, better known as OSIRIS-REx. Since December 2018, it's been orbiting around asteroid Bennu, a jumble of space rocks the size of the Empire State Building. A few days ago, on Tuesday, October 20th, it successfully performed a touch-and-go maneuver, or tag maneuver, in which it lowered itself to the surface of the asteroid, blew out a puff of compressed gas, collected as many flying rocks as it could, and then ascended off the surface of the asteroid back into orbit around it. Let's take a look at a rendering of its approach and the actual image sequence of its touch and go. So, music's muted here. This is a rendering using actual images of the asteroid, and okay, they've got some inspiring background stuff here, but then they have the images of the actual. Okay, so this is a rendering of the approach as it lowered itself down to the asteroid. Then it blows out a puff of, not air, but gas of some sort, I forget what kind. Rocks go flying everywhere, and its sample collector grabs everything it can on the way up. Everybody cheers, and then Bennu ascends back up to its orbital altitude. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So it's a very exciting mission. There have been a few sample return missions from like comets and stuff in the past, but yeah, Bennu is our first. I think Bennu is the first asteroid sample return mission, the first actual touchdown and sample return. Now Japan has a sample return mission which is not yet returned to Earth. I think that's coming back in 2022. But yeah, so shortly after the touch and go maneuver, images showed here. All right, shortly after the touch and go maneuver, images showed that the collector head was overflowing with, quote, well over 2 ounces or 60 grams of Bennu surface material. That might not sound like much, but these are scientifically priceless samples. Basically a snapshot of our early solar system. It looked like some of the particles were slowly escaping due to a mylar flap being apparently wedged open by some of the larger rocks, so the mission team accelerated their timeline for stowing the collector head in the sample return capsule. So a couple of weeks ahead of the original plan, on October 28th, the command was issued for the spacecraft to close the sample return capsule, thus preventing any further loss of material. And let me really refresh this and you can see that. So there's the collector head, that mesh-looking object, and the sample return capsule, which will actually be returning the precious pebbles back to Earth. Since the spacecraft is currently 205 million miles away from the Earth, it takes 18.5 minutes for a signal to get there, and another 18.5 minutes for the return signal to arrive. So all of these, the tag maneuver was all done in an automated fashion. It wasn't being live controlled by people on the Earth, and so all we could do, all the mission controllers could do, is sit and wait for the signals to arrive to verify that it either had or had not succeeded, and it did. So they got their sample, they have it secured in the return capsule. The next phase of the mission is the Earth return cruise. The departure window opens in March 2021, so that's when they will be leaving the vicinity of asteroid Bennu, with an anticipated arrival back at Earth on September 24th, 2023. So as an aside, the day after the OSIRIS-REx touch and go, I adopted a 5-month-old rescue kitten. I named him Bennu in honor of the mission. Now let me find. Oh shoot, I meant to have a picture ready to go here. No, I'll tell you what. I'll post it up later. I have. If you look on my community, what is it? Community tab of my channel. There's a sort of a low quality picture of Bennu that was like a portion of a still frame from a video that one of my daughters took the night we got him. So you can see what he looks like there on the community tab. And I'll post a better picture of him later. But he's very cute. He actually looks a lot like my old cat Boo, who sadly I lost earlier this year to a whole plethora of medical conditions. Her body just shut down after 17 years or so. So yeah. Now later that same day, Starship SN8 prototype performed a static test fire with 3 Raptor engines, which is the first time that 3 Raptor engines have been used in a static firing at once. Previously, the hops that were done by the previous SN prototypes as well as Starhopper only used a single Raptor engine. So let's take a look at this video from Lab Padre, who has 24/7 live views of the launch pad and facilities at Boca Chica. So that was like a pre-firing, and then about a minute later, if we fast forward, is the static fire. So there you go, a brief little static fire. All right, so Rockin' Robbins is saying something about Bennu here. I'd better address this since it is fresh on our minds. A couple interesting things about Bennu. The spacecraft backed off from the surface at 40 centimeters per second, about 16 inches per second. That is higher than escape velocity, so from the firing of the back-off motors, OSIRIS-REx was no longer in orbit around Bennu. It still is not, and there are no plans to return to Bennu. So, and that actually corresponds with, or correlates, well, matches up with an animation I saw showing the approach, bounce off, and trajectory of OSIRIS-REx. So I misspoke when I said that it's in orbit around Bennu, but it is still out there very far away, and the Earth return maneuver is scheduled to take place in March of 2021. So, now, later that week, so we're still 2 weeks ago, later that week, Starlink 14 marked a big milestone for SpaceX. It was their 100th successful launch. Let's check it out.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. And we have liftoff.
So, the launch was successful. The landing, if we can track forward, let's check that out.
Kind of shaking the camera there.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
Seco.
Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And we had a little bit of a rough camera view there, but the Falcon has landed on our drone ship for its third landing on Just Read the Instructions.
Yeah, so the landing burn really gave the camera a shake, but the drone ship was fine and the landing was fine. As relayed to us by SpaceX's senior, something engineer, Jessica. And so with the recent Starlink launches, they have had these longer coast phases, and that may have to do with the altitude they're targeting being higher, a higher orbital shell. But yeah, that's sort of sharply contrasted with the first few Starlink launches, where the deployment was just basically right after they reached orbit. But now we're seeing half-hour, hour-long coast phases as okay. So there was a brief and I'm looking for the deployment here. There we go. So if you haven't seen it before, the way they deploy the Starlink satellites is really nifty. There's a bracket that just sort of retains the satellites on top of the Falcon 9 second stage, and the bracket comes loose, as you can see here, boing. And because the rocket is slowly rotating end over end, it's simply centrifugal force that causes the Starlink satellites to drift away, to sort of fan out and drift away from the rocket. And then after they have dispersed, they use the onboard ion propulsion to space them out over time to their target orbits. So congratulations to SpaceX, and in honor of their 100th successful launch, they released a short compilation video that we can check out here. It's pretty neat. They show little bits of all 100 launches. Let's check it out.
Liftoff of the Falcon 9. Falcon 9 has cleared the tower. First stage propulsion, healthy.
Good to 1, 2 rock on those stages.
Propulsion is nominal. Nico, the Falcon has landed.
Good recognition.
Very cool. Then last Sunday, so we're finally up to last week. It's been a lot going on, which is cool. So last Sunday, a Russian Soyuz 2.1B rocket with Fregat upper stage launched the GLONASS K1 Global Navigation System satellite. It's basically their version of GPS. Let's check that out. Some really great views there. Hello, operator. Yeah, so the Russian military launches, they don't have, they almost never have live coverage, unlike the Russian launches for NASA, which there is live coverage of those. But we do have some of these great videos to look at after the fact. Going back to my cat, I got one of the videos. I downloaded one of the pictures I took of him. So here he is. That's Bennu. He is very precocious. He's not bugging me right now, but he likes to reach up and embed his claws in my leg and climb up into my lap while I'm trying to do things productively on the computer, and he likes to guard / prevent my access to my mouse, as well as block visual line of sight to my screen. But he's a lot of fun, and he woke me up this morning with his teeth and his claws, but then he made up for it by purring on my chest for an hour. So I'm a long-time cat owner, so I'm accustomed to it. But there's Bennu. Then, finally, on... oh, yeah, I was going to say some more about the Russian launch. So let's go back to a nice view of... for some reason, Soyuz launches just seem really epic to me. I don't know. It's just really dramatic visuals, I guess. Maybe it's the angles or the form factor of the rocket. I'm not sure. But so this launched from Plesetsk Cosmodrome, which at 62 degrees 55 minutes north is the world's northernmost launch facility, just a smidge more than 3 degrees from the Arctic Circle. Plesetsk has been around since 1957, but being so far north, it's more ideally suited for launching into polar or high inclination orbits rather than equatorial or low inclination. The thing is, Russia's main launch center, Baikonur Cosmodrome, is located in what is now Kazakhstan, which gained independence after the breakup of the former Soviet Union. As such, Russia phased out military launches from Baikonur by the mid-2000s, with Plesetsk inheriting most of them. Russia also has its newly built Vostochny Cosmodrome, but that's located 5,000 kilometers and 6 time zones to the east of Moscow, so getting hardware there is expensive and slow. So for military launches, Russia is sort of hobbled in a way because from such a northerly latitude as Plesetsk is located, they're not picking up nearly as much rotational momentum from the Earth's spin as they would be from a more southerly latitude, and so they can't launch as big a payloads or with as little of fuel. So they need more fuel to accomplish the same amount of orbital velocity. So, which is kind of why they built Vostochny, because it's in the far east of Russia, on sort of a leg of Russia that dips down more to the south, but it's just very, very far away from the center of power there. So, moving on to China. Last Monday, a Chinese Long March 2C launched 3 Yaogan 3007 military surveillance satellites with a Tianqi 6 data relay CubeSat rideshare. To date, a total of 21 Yaogan satellites have been launched since 2017. Let's go ahead and check out that launch. So Bennu decided to make an appearance, and he's going to hurt me. Yeah. So sometimes he cuddles, other times he kills. But right now he is looking to go away. So there he goes. Yeah, you can never pin a cat down. Well, you can, but you can expect some scars from it. So finally, at long last Wednesday, Rocket Labs launched their 15th Electron rocket with a bunch of Earth imaging satellites, the CESat-2B microsat for Canon Electronics, and 9 more SuperDove nanosats for Planet Labs. These will join the 38 other SuperDove satellites already orbiting, as well as Planet Labs' more than 300 other Earth imaging satellites that have been launched on a wide range of rockets, including Northrop Grumman's Antares and Minotaur, India's PSLV, Russia's Soyuz, SpaceX's Falcon 9, and Rocket Lab's Electron. Let's check that out.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Successful launch. Rocket Lab had some trouble earlier this year with a failed launch of it's a stage separation with a failed launch of some Planet Labs satellites. We got some great views. Earth's horizon rotating. Yeah, they didn't show deployment, which is per customer's request, but yeah, good stuff. Now, back to full screen. Let's see. All right, so this is not launch related, but at 2 a.m. this morning, daylight savings time ended in the U.S. So now we're back to Eastern Standard Time, or GMT minus 5. That bears relation because it affects the calculation of the time difference for launch schedules. I would have had an extra hour of sleep, but my cat Bennu woke me up at 6:45 by attacking my hand again and licking my face. Then he purred on my chest, so not too bad. And plus I'm well accustomed to not getting quite as much sleep as I need, so no biggie. Looking ahead to this week, let me bring up my calendar. So this is Sunday. Oh, this is really zoomed. There we go. Hey, there they are. Okay, that looks better. All right. Looking ahead to this week. Today, Sunday, November 1st, we are expecting a second SpaceX Starship SN8 static fire test. I remember I showed you the first test a few minutes ago. The exact time is uncertain, but the road closure window is from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. Central Time, or 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern. This is expected to be the last static fire test before SN8's 15-ish kilometer test flight, date to be determined. I sincerely hope that SpaceX gives us live coverage this time. We got a live stream for Starhopper last year, but their SN5 and SN6 hop tests only had live coverage from third-party onlookers like Lab Padre. Go visit their channel, link in the chat. So yeah, hopefully SpaceX provides us with a musk-eye view of of the test launch. Then tomorrow, Monday, November 2nd, 2020, will mark the 20th anniversary of continuous human habitation on the International Space Station. The first component of the ISS, the Russian Zarya control module, was launched on November 20th, 1998 on an unmanned Proton rocket. There were 5 short-duration manned shuttle launches to the ISS from December 98 through October 2000 during the initial construction. Then, on October 31st, 2000, Halloween, Soyuz TM-31 launched with Expedition 1 crew members, cosmonauts Yuri Gidzenko, Sergei Krikalev, and astronaut William Shepard. They arrived at the station on November 2nd and stayed for 183 days, just past 6 months. The ISS has had humans on board ever since. There's a whole generation living and working in space. This Monday, November 2nd, from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. GMT, NASA TV will be showing a series of documentaries and panel discussions in commemoration of the anniversary, starting with President Ronald Reagan's 1984 State of the Union address, in which he directed NASA to develop a permanently manned space station. So those shows should be pretty fascinating to watch. Are airing from 1 to 6 p.m. Eastern, and then repeating from 6:30 till like 11 at night. So they're going to play the same shows twice throughout the course of the day, if you missed them the first time. And again, that's on NASA TV. You can either go to the NASA website, or NASA TV also broadcasts on YouTube 24/7. So feel free to check them out there. On Tuesday, November 3rd, at 5:58 p.m. Eastern, 10:58 p.m. GMT, a ULA Atlas V will launch NROL 101, a classified spy satellite for the National Reconnaissance Office. The rocket will fly in the 531 configuration, which means a 5-meter payload fairing, 3 solid rocket boosters, and single-engine Centaur upper stage. This will be the first Atlas V launch using the Northrop Grumman's new GEM 63 solid rocket motors, replacing the Aerojet Rocketdyne AJ-60A SRBs used on previous launches. Now, this NROL mission is not to be confused with the with NROL 108, which will be launching on a Falcon 9 later this month, or with NROL 44, which is the much delayed and beleaguered Delta IV Heavy launch of that experienced the hot fire aboard and all those other issues with the swing arm retraction system and everything else over the past few months that I've mentioned many times in Space Weeks. The launch date for NROL 44 is to be determined. They've placed it on an indefinite hold pending further investigation of their swing arm issue, because they're tired of the embarrassment, quite frankly. Then on Thursday, November 5th at 6:24 p.m. Eastern, 11:24 p.m. GMT, a SpaceX Falcon 9 will hopefully launch the GPS-3 SVO4 mission that's experienced so many delays also. There have been a lot of delays. But anyway, October and December 2019, May 2020, July, August, September 29th and 30th. Then it scrubbed on October 2nd at T-minus 2 seconds. Then it was delayed again from November 4th presumably due to cutting it too close with the Cape Canaveral range availability after the upcoming Atlas V launch on the 3rd. So yeah, that GPS satellite launch will be on the 5th now. Then on Friday, November 6th, at an undisclosed time, a Chinese Long March 6 will launch NewSats, that's N with a tilde, NewSats 9 through 18 for, there you go, Satellogic, an Argentinian company. There won't be any live coverage for the Chinese launch, as usual. I need to come up with a better display for this is just the Google Calendar, but I need to come up with a better display for the purposes of Space Week, because this is too small to really read effectively. Then finally, on Saturday, November 7th, at the painful hour of 4:32 a.m. Eastern, 9:32 a.m. GMT, an Indian PSLV rocket will launch the EOS-1 synthetic aperture radar Earth observation satellite, as well as 4 Cleos scouting mission radio surveillance nanosats for Luxembourg-based Cleos Space, and multiple Lemur 2 CubeSats for Spire Global. The EOS-1 satellite was formerly known as RISAT-2BR2. It will join the RISAT-2B and RISAT-2BR1 in making observations for agriculture, forestry, soil moisture, geology, sea ice, coastal and flood monitoring. It's a bit of a typo there. Object identification, and of course military surveillance, because that seems to creep into almost all observation missions. Looking a little further ahead, and this is exciting, the SpaceX Crew 1 mission is set to launch in less than 2 weeks on Saturday, November the 14th. That will take 4 new crew members to the ISS in a SpaceX Crew Dragon module on top of a Falcon 9 rocket. The very historic first official commercial crew program launch, and the first time a regular expedition crew will have launched to the ISS from American soil since the space shuttle was retired back in 2011, more than 9 years ago. More on that next week. So that is all the upcoming events that I have. Congratulations, thank you, and welcome to our new member, Lemzia, Rawthling, who joined us in the past, since the last Space Week. Let us get to your questions, if I can find my question thingy. Yeah. So let me scroll up real quick. Make sure to tag my name if you ask any questions so that it stands out from the other chat. Meanwhile, I will scan the chat real quick for previously asked questions. Rockin' Robin says, I got a thumbs down for breathing. That's a shame. I guess I'll have to take the thumbs down, because I'm not going to stop breathing. Looking for questions. Nightbot tagged me, that's useful. Schrodinger's cat, yeah. Yeah, so Bennu, he spends his nights in my room, and means a little bit of lost sleep, but that's okay. Okay. Rockin' Robin says that your cell phone accesses the GLONASS constellation. I admittedly don't know a whole lot about consumer GPS technology, or GNS, the Global Navigation System, Satellite System technology. I'm not sure which constellations. I mean, well, probably not the Chinese one. So there's GLONASS, there's the Chinese Beidou, I guess. There's GPS, there's multiple GNSS systems. But, yeah. Got the mouse. Jams or Christine Gray says, my cats give me belly massage at 3:30 a.m. GMT. I guess. I mean, so GMT. Yeah, okay. Are you GMT? I don't remember. Oh, a question. When will James Webb launch? What is it? October next year? Something like that? I think that's when it was pushed to. October next year. That's right. Delta 4 Heavy is too heavy. Can't get off the ground. Atarusho. Despite the fact that I roughly know how to pronounce your name, it is still difficult to pronounce. Atarusho. ISRO does broadcast their launches, but I will also have a stream of the ISRO launch. Probably. Although since it's in the middle of the night, we'll have to see. Maybe. I might just decide that I'm too tired. But most of the time, I suck it up and do the middle of the night launch. Nilao Liver asks, when is Kerbal Space Program 2 going to be out? There has been some speculation in the internetverse that it might not be released, but I honestly don't know anything about that process, about the development, of KSP2. So next year, maybe, hopefully sometime. It would be a shame for the project to be dropped. So Barrett asks, how do they unload the unpressurized trunk on the Dragon V2? I still have not been able to figure that out on forums. So Dragon V2 is the spacecraft, was basically Crew Dragon / the Dragon 2 cargo craft. Both use the same platform. And the question is, how do they unload the unpressurized trunk? So as the if you watch a Dragon cargo, if you watch a Dragon deployment from a Falcon 9 after it launches, you'll see that there's this big skirt around the bottom of the capsule that contains stuff, boxes and stuff, but it's like open. It's like almost like looking down the length of a toilet paper tube or whatever. That's called the trunk. It's an unpressurized storage area. And off the top of my head, I am not positive, but they definitely do not go on a spacewalk. I think they retrieve the contents of the trunk. They must do it with the Canadarm, with the robotic arm, because again, they're not going to suit up for a spacewalk to go rummaging around out there in the trunk of Cargo Dragon. Tig Rehoff asks, might you know, when the Indian probe will reach Mars? So this round of Mars probes that launched a couple months ago will be arriving around about late February, and so all of them will be arriving around the same time, because they're all leaving here around the same. They all left here, Earth, around the same time. So mid to late February is when you can expect those Mars missions to arrive, and but Indian probe. Pardon me if my memory is failing. I'm not recalling which Indian probe you mean, because there was the Hope mission, which was from the United Arab Emirates, launched on a Japanese rocket. There was the Chinese mission, launched on a Chinese rocket, and then there was the Mars 2020 mission, launched from here in the U.S. So I don't recall the last Indian Mars mission. It's just escaping me, but perhaps you could clarify. Atarusha, regarding the trunk of the Crew Dragon, or of the Dragon 2, you can't pressurize it. It's open. So yeah, pressurization is not an option. Barrett asks thoughts on super heavy construction. So I don't have it in front of me, but I wonder if I saved it on my phone. Maybe I could just hold it up to the stream. I saw on Imager website. Nah, it was a diagram showing the progress of construction on the Starship prototypes, and including Super Heavy, and they showed, like, you know, SN8 was like fully assembled, and SN9 and subsequent versions and bits and pieces of the Super Heavies with like 1 ring or 2 rings or different combinations of components. I need to track down that image again. And I think there's a site that keeps track of all the progress on the different you know, spaceship prototype models. And I mean, based on our best guesses, because that's sort of insider information, you know, SpaceX isn't upfront with all that because it's development. You know, it's proprietary, and it's not public relations type stuff. Oh yeah, the Indian Mars probe, it crashed. Anyway, yeah, so regarding Super Heavy development, obviously we don't have any prototypes yet. I mean, they're still working on Starship, which is the second stage, which will go on top of Super Heavy. But you know, I think they have some parts for Super Heavy, but I don't think we'll see any prototypes for at least a few months yet. But we shall see. I mean, you know, sometimes SpaceX moves really fast when they want to, and they don't experience any RUDs or unanticipated hang-ups. But any more questions? Yes? No? By the way, there is sometimes speculation about whether I'll be wearing a hat or not. I'm wearing it today because my hair was a royal mess. It's been a few weeks, too many weeks, since since our last quarantine haircuts, and so yeah, I just couldn't tame it, so I decided to cover it with a hat. Chris V. The Mars Orbiter mission, also called Mangalyaan, is a space probe orbiting Mars since 24 September 2014. It was launched in 2013 by the Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO. Thank you for that detail. It was their moon project that crashed. Again, I'd have to look it up, which is awkward to do in the middle of a stream, so I won't do it. But I thought that India had sent something to Mars. I just don't remember what it was. Unfortunately, my what do they call it? My I can't even remember the word for the word. Good Lord. Picture, photo, something. Anyway, my eidetic memory is not what it used to be. In fact, it never was. But anywho, it looks like that wraps it up for the questions. Oh, I forgot to mention, Tuesday, well, that's, yes, 2 days from now, November the 3rd, 2020, if you are in the United States and you are of age and registered to vote, get your butt to the voting booth and vote. And if you haven't done it already, I voted early myself. Please, you know, through the democratic process of casting our votes is the only way that elected officials get elected. So we have to do our part. So please make sure that you do that if you can. Vote early and often, as they say. Don't vote often, just vote. Vote as you can. But anywho, yeah, thank you all for coming. If you're interested, there's memberships are available. I'll put a link in the chat. Lets you do cool things like custom emojis and early access to edited videos or whatever. Until next time, which should be... Oh, I will not be live streaming the static fire test, by the way, but I will be live streaming the other launches. The launches and yeah, there's just launches this week, no other events. Anywho, until next time, keep it raw, and thank you for coming.